Right. So just let me present one case study. Now you'll be thinking about, okay, we've learnt about all of this. Let me actually see how a case study looks like. Let me actually see what a slide looks like within consulting. So let me just read this sample case study, and I'll just present my solution to this case study that I made 1 year back. Just read this case study. So I'll just explain what they are talking about here. So ABCkart is a major e-commerce company, and it's trying to enter the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. It's trying to dominate the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And but they've noticed that within tier 2 and tier 3 cities, tier 3 are the non-metropolitan cities like Chandigarh maybe, or tier 3 would include cities like Ropar, etc. So all of these kinds of cities, and they've noticed that people consider online shopping risky in those cities. So also they've identified that offline merchants is the best way to shop. Like the people in tier 2 and tier 3 cities consider offline merchants as the best way to shop, even if it costs them more. So what we need to do is that we need to help Cart to grow their user base in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So this was part of one of the challenges that were conducted by the placement cell around 1 year back. And I won this particular competition. And I'll just present the slides that I used as a solution to this competition. So you'll get an idea of how we make slides. So these are not very good slides, I would say, because I've learned a lot after. So this was 1 year back, so I've learned a lot after that. But yeah, this can be a good starting point. And at that point of time, this was one of the best slides that were there, like one of the best entries in this competition. So you'll get an idea. So I started with just writing the case. Then I tried to dissect the case. I tried to understand what exactly they mean by each line within the case. So I compared ABC Cart with Amazon, and I noticed that 65% of the sales of Amazon come from tier 2, 3, and 4 towns and cities. And yeah, so understood why tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Why is the company trying to target these cities? Then I tried to understand what are the obstacles and what's the task at hand. And here I've just stated a report by Red Seer Consulting. So this is a report, like this is a part of a report that was prepared by a consulting firm. Then I understood what are the barriers to entry. Why is ABCkart not able to enter this particular market, that is tier 2 and tier 3 cities? So these are the barriers to entry. Then since this is something like a market analysis framework, and I told you that Porter's 5 forces is one framework that we can use. So I used Porter's 5 forces here, and this is the problem, then this is the solution. So this problem is basically one of the forces. This is one force within the Porter's 5 forces. This is another force. So and there's a solution to all of these things, right? So this is the Porter's 5 forces. Then I did a risk benefit analysis. What are the risks that are there, and what are the benefits that ABCkart would get if it enters this new market space, tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So this is a risk benefit analysis. So after doing these two kinds of analysis, one is the Porter's 5 forces and the second one is the risk benefit analysis, I got to know, okay, this is the approach that I like. These are the solutions that are there, and these are the approaches that ABCkart needs to take if it wants to enter this new market space. So once I understood all of that, I moved towards the solutions. So I wrote down all of these solutions, and each of these solutions, so suppose this is a solution, this is backed by proper data. Why am I suggesting this solution? These are the reasons why I am suggesting that solution, right? So whenever you state a solution, always mention the reason why you are doing that. Then these are other solutions. Yeah, that's all. So I think there was a 10 slide limit, so I made 10 slides only. But yeah, this, I think this would give you, this gave you a very good idea of how we can make, consulting presentations, at least at our level. We are not masters at doing this, but yeah, we can at least, solve a case through using a structured analysis. Structure is one very important thing within consulting, that's for sure. Yeah, right. So before I move on, let me just present the case interview section, that was like the a summary of the Victor Cheng videos I was talking about. So when you go to a B school, business school, that is, I think all business schools, whenever they have consulting firms visiting them, whenever they, whenever students are trying to learn consulting, they definitely watch these Victor Cheng videos, or at least they read a summary of these Victor Cheng videos. And I've watched all 12 myself, and I learned a lot about consulting from those videos. So I recommend you all to watch those videos. And even if you don't watch them, I'll just share this summary. So there are, so this is not an exhaustive summary. I've just noted down some, some points which I found to be different from other resources. So I'll just read out some points. Always answers questions with data-driven justification. So that's what I told you. Whenever you suggest a solution or whenever you answer a question, always, back that by data. Then be client-friendly. Explain visually. So explaining visually means you can, maybe use data visualization. You can make graphs, all of that. Then there's methodology. Uh, this is basically the methodology that you need to use when you are talking to clients, when you're talking to customers. So stall means to wait there and, understand what the problems of the client are. Then you need to verify your understanding with the client, then structure the case for analysis. So within structuring the case, we need to first identify the type of problem situation. So I guess one of you just asked, yeah, okay, one of you just asked me sometime back that when do how do we understand which framework to use when? So you need to identify the type of problem situation, and according to that you decide the framework that you need to use. So that's the first step in structuring the case for analysis. The second step is match the appropriate framework. Now you have that, you have 10 frameworks in mind. You'll just, get to know which framework is the most suitable for this particular problem or this particular situation. After deciding upon the framework, then describe the components of the framework and draw the framework on a piece of paper and, solve the problem. So that's about, the methodology that you need to use while answering a case. And this is true for interviews as well. When you go for case interviews with, companies, and we have some small consulting firms visiting our campus as well, and you would definitely, these things would benefit you in all interviews. When analyzing cases, I think, okay, yeah, so first of all, when you are analyzing any case, you need to ask for any info on where to start. So extract all the information that you can from a client. Then state a hypothesis. This means that you can state your own, like your own solution to the problem, like what the problem can be. State that. And after that, pick a branch of framework to start, then identify key issues within the branch, and then then ask some standard questions to understand more about that case, and then go deeper down the branch and understand whether your hypothesis was correct. And towards the end, refine your hypothesis as you discover more and more information, as you extract more and more information from the client. So that's basically solving a problem. That is the structure for solving a problem of the client. And there are some these are some tips: think out loud, make educated guesses, ask for more data, don't use prior knowledge, all of these. Then this is something you'll find interesting: types of problems and frameworks. So one is the profit problem. So when you talk about profit problems, you can think of decline in prices, decline in volume, or increase in costs. Then there are business problems. Then these are mergers and acquisitions. Can anyone tell me what mergers and acquisitions mean? Does anyone have any idea about that?
Like
When a
buying,
larger company acquires a smaller one, acquires the whole ecosystem of the smaller company by buying them
Mhm.
out or having majority of shares of that company. And merger
Yeah.
means when two
basically what
companies
Zomato
combine
did
to
to
form a
Uber
bigger
Eats.
conglomerate.
Sorry, merger means?
When two or more companies combine together to form a larger conglomerate.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. That's correct. So mergers and acquisitions is within itself a huge field. So you have huge companies, huge global companies that just solve mergers and acquisitions problems. That just focus on these mergers and acquisitions kinds of problems. So these are this is a very important part of consulting. Then there are supply demand kinds of cases. So whenever you have a problem in supply, suppose you you're not able to supply medicines, the manufacturers are not able to supply medicines, so that's a supply problem. Or there's a demand problem. Suppose you are selling medicines, but customers are not buying those medicines. That's a demand problem. There's not enough demand from the customer's side. That's a demand problem. So these are some kinds of problems that are typically there in consulting firms, that are typically there in business in general. And these problems are mostly solved by consultants. Yeah, so while doing the analysis, look into four things: customer, product, company, competition. Then this is another uh, Medium article that also, like, this covers uh, notes of Victor Cheng videos. So you'll get a lot of resources just based on Victor Cheng videos. So try to watch those videos if you want to explore consulting. Yeah, and if you are ever stuck while solving problems, segment revenues, segment costs, segment customers, segment competitors. Segmentation is a very important thing within consulting. So you can say, for example, you need to segment customers. You need to understand who are the customers. And for understanding who the customers are, you can segment them. You can break them into smaller buckets. And those buckets can be segmented, like those customers can be segmented by demographics, by their needs, purchasing patterns, price points, etc. So segmentation is a very important part in consulting. Like, you don't need to know all of this as of now. This is a very high, this is a deep down analysis of consulting. But yeah, just need to know the basics of consulting. Just need to under at this point of time, you need to make very good slides. You need to know some of the frameworks that are there, and you need to understand how consultants solve business problems, right? So
Hello.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was asking how important is it to stick to one particular framework? Like मिक्स करके भी यूज करते हैं कभी कभी.
बिल्कुल, हाँ हाँ, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. नाउ यू मस्ट हैव नोटिस्ड, अभी मैंने यहाँ पे बताया था, while just let me share the screen. I just told you कि इन 4 चीजों का ध्यान रखना जब भी एनालिसिस कर रहे हो. While doing the analysis, look into 4 things. अगर आपने नोटिस किया हो तो ये 4 चीजों का मिक्सचर है. एक तो कस्टमर, मतलब ये 2 चीजों का मिक्सचर है. कस्टमर, कंपनी और कंपटीशन 3 C's फ्रेमवर्क है, और प्रोडक्ट वाली चीज 4 P's फ्रेमवर्क में से यूज की है. तो एक्चुअल में मतलब प्रैक्टिकल सिचुएशंस में कंसल्टेंट्स यूजुअली मिक्स करते हैं सारे फ्रेमवर्क्स को, और उससे सॉल्व करते हैं प्रॉब्लम्स. तो मिक्स करना, मतलब मिक्स करना गलत नहीं है, एज लॉन्ग एज यू आर solving the problem in its entirety. As long as you are covering the entire problem, you can mix the various frameworks. So the main purpose is to cover the entire length and breadth of the problem, right? To not leave anything unexplored. So for that you can use more than one frameworks, and most of the times people do mix frameworks, right?
And how hard it is to get the data, like जो रिसर्च कर रखी है आपने, उसे ढूंढने में मतलब कितनी प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है?
डिपेंड करता
मतलब
है.
जैसे हम स्टार्टिंग करें तो हमें सीधे पता नहीं चलेगा ना कहाँ कैसे ढूंढना.
हाँ, वो नहीं रिसोर्सेज होती है. काफी सारी रिसोर्सेज होती हैं जहाँ पे डेटा मिलता है. 2-3 वेबसाइट्स ऐसी हैं जहाँ पे तुम्हें बहुत सारा डेटा मिल जाएगा. कुछ भी चीज सर्च करो उसका डेटा मिल जाएगा. और उसके अलावा मतलब इजीली, जैसे मैंने एक टेलीकॉम सेक्टर पे रिसर्च की थी लास्ट ईयर, तो उस टाइम मेरे को इजीली डेटा मिल गया था नेट पे. बस थोड़ा टाइम लगता है. ये जो चीज है डेटा ढूंढने वाली, इसको मार्केट रिसर्च कहते हैं. तो मतलब ये सारी रिसर्च करने का काम ज्यादा हेक्टिक नहीं होता, लेकिन कुछ कंसल्ट मतलब कुछ रोल्स का तो सिर्फ यही काम, कुछ रोल्स में सिर्फ यही काम होता है. लाइक सम कंसल्टिंग फर्म्स, सम पोजीशंस, लाइक दे हैव सम पोजीशंस लाइक मार्केट रिसर्च एनालिस्ट और समथिंग लाइक दैट. तो उनका सिर्फ यही काम है दिन रात डेटा एक्सट्रैक्ट करना. या आई होप दैट आंसर्स योर क्वेश्चन.
यस, थैंक यू.
हाँ, और एमयूएन्स में भी रिसर्च होती है. रिसर्च वाला पार्ट कंसल्टिंग से भी बहुत सीखते हैं. मतलब consultant's job is to one of the very important parts of a consultant's job is to make slides. And for making slides you need to have a lot of data, because you need to back your message, you need to back your analysis by data. So to get that data, like, it's not very difficult to get data. It's a bit difficult to get like authentic sources, but yeah, as and when you get a lot of experience doing market research, you will understand what are the sites that I need to visit. How do I search on Google? Like, searching on Google is in itself an art. So you need to type the correct keywords, right? Yeah, and yeah, exactly. So Yatin has asked a good question: how to know which data is genuine on the internet. So as consultants face a lot of problems to find genuine sources of data. So this is a huge problem in the consulting domain. I know about that. So I'm very sure that consultants have a tough time in really finding authentic sources. There are sources like Wikipedia which are not at all reliable. So Wikipedia can be changed by anyone and everyone, right? So you cannot be really sure about whether the data is correct on Wikipedia or not. So you need to use only authentic sources, genuine sources on the internet. And most research, mostly research happens on the internet. That's correct. But see, what these consulting firms do is they have their own insights kind of book or maybe newsletters, and that is one of the sources for their research. Like I know about Deloitte Insights. Deloitte is a consulting firm, and they have their own separate arm, separate like sister subsidiary kind of company that is totally based on gathering the data, and that is Deloitte Insights, I think. So they use these websites sometimes, and they use books. They collect the data, they synthesize it, and make it into a form. They convert it into a form which is easily accessible to consultants. And That can be in the form of books, that can be in the form of newsletters, blogs, articles, all of that. So that's one source of data. Okay, so websites which I consider authentic, there is there is some STAT something website. I find a lot of data there. Uh, I'll just share the name of that website. I'm not able to remember the name, but yeah, uh, there is Traction, TRACXN, something like that. This particular website has a lot of authentic data. Uh, yeah, this is, yeah, I've written the correct spelling. So I use a lot of data from this particular website. So they usually have correct data. This is one of the websites I consider to be authentic. And you might be knowing that I have participated in a lot of MUNs in the past. So for MUNs, you have Reuters as a very, very useful, very authentic resource. Yeah, it's Statista. Yes. Piyush, you are right. So I use Statista a lot when I try to find data. Like I've used Statista a lot in the past 1 year. Yeah, so I was talking about MUNs. So for MUNs, I had this Reuters resource, this particular website. This is basically a news agency uh, that is operating throughout the world. So in every field, you have various websites which you can consider authentic, right? So Statista is one place where you get a lot of data, but the only problem with Statista is that they sometimes have paid subscriptions. Only some data is free to only some extent. So that's a problem with Statista. Yeah, so I was talking about resources. Yeah, so I was talking about resources. Uh, I guess you are able to see the slides. Right. So yeah, so these are the resources for consulting. At least these are the resources that I have used in the past. So one of them, the most important, would be Victor Cheng Consulting Masterclass. I've already told you about those 12 videos that are there, 12 or 13. That's the playlist. Then there is, so Victor Cheng is one of the best consultants in the world. So he's compiled a lot of resources for you, for budding consultants, and they've also put together this particular website, caseinterview.com. And there's an email subscription as well, a free email subscription that I would recommend all of you to subscribe. That is again, you'll get to know about the email subscription when you visit this caseinterview.com. So you can subscribe to that email and you'll get an email every week, I think, or every day, and that will tell you a lot about consulting, how to secure consulting offers, how to crack interviews, and what do consultants do, all of these things. So I've got an email today also from them. Like I think they send 2 or 3 emails every week or something, but they focus on a lot of different topics, and you'll get to learn a lot from those emails. And there is Share. So I think some of you would be knowing about Share. How many of you know about Share? Share is an organization that teaches students consulting throughout the world. So it has a chapter in only the top colleges in the world. They have a chapter in Oxford. I think they have a chapter in Cambridge. Uh, they have chapters in lot of top colleges. Like I think there are around 10 or 12 colleges in India that have a chapter, Share chapter. By chapter, I mean that it's just a branch of that organization. And we are lucky enough that we were able to start Share, I think, last year. And so Share is an organization that teaches you consulting. So you can join that if you want to, that's one way to learn consulting. Then at FinCom also, so FinCom is finance and consulting community. So uh, consulting is one of the things we definitely focus on, and I'm sure we'll have lot of sessions devoted to consulting in this particular semester as we move on, right? Then so the if there would be one thing that's the most important in consulting, it's case interviews, solving case studies. So you can solve those from case books. You need to participate in all of the competitions that we organize. That will help you a lot, and you can practice guesstimates. So guesstimates, I'll host a session sometime soon that will cover guesstimates, and we'll solve a lot of guesstimates together. So guesstimates is just a way of estimating something through uh, intelligent guesses, right? So that is guesstimation. Then there are these online courses. These are just like virtual internships, but these are free courses on on Forage. Like it was previously Inside Sherpa, and they've uh, renamed to Forage. So you can visit this website and maybe do these very short courses. These are like virtual internships. Then there's that article I just showed you that was written by Street of Walls, and that covers many frameworks on consulting. And yeah, I'm very sure that I'll host some sessions in the future on frameworks particularly, and I'll cover a lot of different domains like telecom sector, automobile sector, and oil and gas sector. Then the like many different sectors are there: the pharmaceutical sector, retail, banking, fintech, power and energy sector. All of these sectors have different kinds of problems. So to solve those problems, you need to understand these sectors, and there are different frameworks for these sectors. And those are not exactly rigid frameworks, but they are just examples of approaches that you can use to solve these problems. Then there are other conceptual frameworks like market entry framework, diamond framework, and soft matrix, growth frameworks, product life cycle frameworks, all of these things. We don't need to learn them. We just need to understand that, okay, this is the thought process behind building this framework. So that will help you analyze cases better. That will give you an idea of how cases are solved. So when you read that framework, you'll get to know, okay, this is how I need to solve a problem. And I think that these frameworks would also help you to structure your thoughts better, and that would of course help you in the long run. And yeah, last would be to participate in case competitions. I think there are. I think this semester we'll have at least 3 to 4 case study competitions, and one of them is going to be organized in the next week, I suppose. So make sure you participate in the competition. So what does a case study competition comprise of? You will be given a case study. It would be a short case study like this one. So companies usually give very long case studies, but at our level, in the case study competitions that we organize, we give very short case studies, limited data, and you need to come up with solutions to solve that problem. And you can come up with solutions uh, through slides or maybe a Word document, anything. But yeah, slides is mostly recommended. So it's usually mentioned, like in this particular case study, it was mentioned that you have to submit a 10-page PPT as your solution, right? So you will need to solve a case study very soon. Um, yeah. Okay. Which consultancy companies come to IIT Roped? Uh, we've had a number of consulting firms. I'll just present something. I think that will give you a better idea. So Deloitte is a firm that has hired in the past. I think Red Seer Consulting is a third tier consulting firm and it has also hired in the past. There's Helium Consulting. So the very big consulting firms don't visit our college as such, but yeah, they can visit anytime in the future. And you can of course apply off campus. Off campus means that you can apply no, like you don't need to go through the placement cell to apply for that. You can apply for those roles on the internet. So before I move forward, let me just share one consulting list that we have. I'll just present that. I'm not able to find it as of now, but never mind. I'll share the list sometime later. Uh, I'll just show you some slides that we have made in Share. So that will give you an idea of how exactly slides are made in uh, in consulting companies. So just let me present my screen. One second. Yeah, so this is a slide. Like you'll find slides like these in consulting firms. This is the structure that some of these consulting firms use. So they start with, I think you can see the screen. Yeah. So they can, you first start with the title. So the issue for this particular slide was that what does your country do on AI and what's the likely impact AI will have on economy. So we started with the executive summary. This was made in Share, and I think we were 4 members who were working on these particular slides. We started with the executive summary and highlighted what were the pain points that we need to address, like what are the current milestones, what's the projected impact of AI, how's the private sector doing in AI. Then we deep dived into each of these analysis, like each of these pain points, and tried to analyze what are the problems that are there through data. So there's a lot of data that's there in these 18 slides. Lot of research has been done. So to make one very good slide, you need to spend something like 1 hour to make a very good slide. And you need to also mention the sources, like the source for this particular slide. I think you can see this. The source for this particular slide was Niti Ayog's, one of the articles that was written by Niti Ayog. Niti Ayog is a very well-known think tank in India, research organization you can say. And yeah, you were talking about authentic websites, right? So to get data on India, to get data on topics related to India, you can go to Niti Ayog or think tanks like Niti Ayog, and you'll find a lot of good data there. Yeah, so in each slide you can see that there's one message, then all this is the evidence that is proving that message, and there's a lot of data that is there, and there are a lot of charts. It's very visual, and the theme also. So the theme for the entire all of this is green mostly, so you'll find a lot of use of green color. So you can see these slides, they have a lot of data. So there's been a lot of effort that has gone into these slides, into making these slides. Right. So these are the kinds of slides that are really there. I think there was a lot of there were a lot of sentences in these slides, but yeah, in consulting there are different requirements for different companies. So you just need to understand those requirements and accordingly work on slides. So I think this is one thing that consulting will teach you, making good slides. That is right. So answering more questions. Is there any advantage of consulting after MBA than consulting after BTech? So, see, very less consulting companies visit BTech colleges. Uh, I think the top few IITs, I think three or four good consulting firms do visit, but at least here, not many consulting firms visit. So in that case, if you really want to explore consulting, uh, one thing can be that you grab an offer from campus, from the firms that are visiting campus. But if the firm is not visiting your campus, then the MBA is the only other option that you have, right? Either you can apply for off campus, but that's a bit difficult. And to really get into consulting, you need to go to some college which really has a lot of consulting firms visiting. So that can be done through an MBA, right? Most consulting firms visit MBA colleges. So like every consulting firm does visit MBA colleges for for hiring consultants. So an MBA, I think, is one of the best options that you have. The other option can be, through if the company is visiting your own college at the BTech level, then you can go into that company. But yeah, MBA is the most widely used option, most preferred option among students for consulting, particularly. Yeah, so consulting firms. Yeah, I was talking about consulting firms that visit campus. So usually, firms that are not very huge, they visit campus, and some of them are uh, Helium Consulting or maybe Red Seer or something like that. Some companies like those, but we've had Deloitte visit us in the past. We've also had EY visit us. Accenture also visited us last year. So at least those big four, you can definitely expect the big four companies to visit: EY, KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, Accenture. These top 5 or 6 companies, these can definitely visit. So out of these five, I think four have visited in 2020. So that's a good sign. I think you can maybe target going into those firms. And what are the requirements? One of the requirements is CGPA, of course. Second one is that you have something in your CV that shows that you have some interest in consulting, and that can be maybe member of FinCom or member of Share, or participated in case study competitions, won case study competitions, all of that. Second can be that you need to have some kind of experience in the form of maybe in the form of something that consultants do. uh, like it can be managing a fest. That is one thing that is very, very highly rewarded when you go to interviews. So they consulting firms hire a lot of students that have really participated in fests, in like participated in organizing fests previously. So that is one thing they highly regard, right? So participate like organizing fests is one thing that's there. So in fact, these are not really the requirements. These are just no brownie points. These are just things that you can have additionally to to stand out from the crowd and to bag that particular consulting offer. But yeah, in terms of requirements, only CGPA. I think CGPA is the only requirement that's there. They don't require you to do any other specific courses or anything else. So yeah, I think in terms of requirements, that's all. Arman, I think this is a very subjective question. Should one aim for consulting jobs after BTech, or one should think about it straight after MBA? See, depends on you. If you really want to, sit in the large, very, very large global consulting firms, I think MBA would be a better option. But if you, are thinking about not spending a lot of money on MBA and maybe getting into entry level roles and then climbing up the ladder within the company and, taking those higher positions, that's that's something that can be done through BTech only. So I think when you do an MBA, after you do an MBA, you will directly be recruited into a senior consultant position. But if you get into a consulting from IIT or from a technical college, after BTech, you will be getting into the entry level roles like junior analyst, junior consultant. Then it will take you 2 or 3 years to climb up the ladder and reach those ranks. So it really depends upon you how you need to go about it. But yeah, there are definitely like lot more opportunities after MBA for consulting than after BTech. A minimum CGPA requirement varies from company to company. I've seen Accenture. Uh, I've seen Accenture having a requirement of 7. Uh, I think it was 7 or 7.5, and they were not really hiring for a consultant position. They were hiring for a data analyst kind of position. I'm not sure how like how similar it is to consulting, but yeah, it was 7.5 or something. And the other companies are not seen. Consulting companies have very stringent criteria because those top firms don't really visit us, and I know for a fact that those top firms do have stringent criteria around 8 or something, 8 CGPA or something. But those don't visit, so I think it's usually something close to 7 or 7.5. But yeah, you should it's in those top colleges or maybe in the top 2 or 3 IITs. It is known for a fact that consulting firms require a stellar academic profile. That means it requires high CGPA. So yeah, if you really want to get into consulting firms, even yeah, I got to know this from our alumni in MBA colleges. I got to know this from them that to get into consulting firms after MBA, you need to have a very good CGPA in the UG as well, in BTech as well, and a very good CGPA in MBA, in your MBA course as well. So CGPA is something that consulting firms usually, look for. They usually look at that. Um, See, it varies from company to company. Uh, how much do they pay at the entry level? I'm not very sure about whether they depends on the role, and I'm not very sure about how much they pay. But yeah, for entry level roles they usually pay less. It again depends on the kind of the kind of company it is. Suppose it's McKinsey would definitely give you a good package even if you are at the entry level. But a company like KPMG or Deloitte may give you less. So I remember that Deloitte gave around 8 or 9, I think 9 LPA when it visited around 3 years back or something. And I've also So EY is you must be knowing about EY. EY visited for a technical role, not for a consultant role, and so technical roles are usually a bit higher, a bit highly paid. So it were, I think, they were offering something more than 9 LPA or something. Yeah, and I think that's about it. It is exactly 6 p.m. Any more questions? Did you guys follow, did you guys follow through the session, or uh, were you guys bored? How was the session? Just want to take some feedback before I end the session. Like, were you able to understand something about consulting? Right, right. That's good to hear. I hope I was able to deliver some value. This is one particular field which I really, wanted to explore as soon as I got into college, and I've spent the past 2 years or something exploring this field, and I think that I was able to deliver some value to you guys. Yeah, and I am here only. I'll be taking more sessions in the future. So yeah, we'll interact again soon. Thanks a lot for attending the session, guys. You can stay back if you want to ask any question. Otherwise, you can leave. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.